Hello and welcome to the HR Kyle podcast, the ultimate resource for HR insights and guidance that will empower both seasoned business professionals and eager job seekers. I'm HR Kyle, your host. I'm excited to embark on this journey with you. In each episode, we'll delve into the intricacies of HR management, uncovering strategies that can transform the way you approach talent acquisition, employee engagement, and workplace dynamics. Whether you're a seasoned HR pro navigating the ever-evolving landscape of human resources or a job seeker striving to land your dream position, this podcast is your compass. Our mission is simple: to provide you with actionable knowledge, expert interviews, and inspiring stories that will help you thrive in the world of HR. So, sit back, relax, and get ready to take your HR game to the next level. Welcome to the HR Kyle podcast, where HR meets success. Good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you're tuning in from. I'm your host, HR Kyle, and welcome back to another episode of our podcast. Today, we're delving into a topic that's crucial for every organization: maximizing the potential of your top performers. But before we dive into that, let me outline what's coming up on today's show. In segment 1, we'll explore the vital importance of taking care of your top performers, discussing strategies and best practices for retaining and nurturing these invaluable assets. Then in segment 2, we're honored to have a special guest, a seasoned corporate recruiter who will be sharing his expertise on navigating the interview process and shining brightly to secure that dream job. But first, a quick word from our sponsors. Stick around, we'll be right back after this short break.
Are you striving to lead your team to success? Or perhaps you're navigating the complexities of the job market. Introducing The Solution, the HR Kyle YouTube channel, your go-to source for insightful guidance and practical tips. With short 1 to 2 minute clips, our videos save you time while delivering impactful, usable strategies. From effective leadership techniques to mastering the job application process, access valuable advice in minutes. Don't miss out. Subscribe to the HR Kyle channel on YouTube today.
Welcome back, listeners. I hope you enjoyed that brief intermission. Now let's dive into our first segment today, where we'll explore the crucial topic of taking care of your top performers. In today's competitive business landscape, retaining and nurturing top talent is more important than ever. These individuals are the backbone of your organization, driving innovation, productivity, and overall success. But how do you ensure you're effectively supporting and retaining your top performers? First off, don't lose sight of them. Here's what we know about top performers. Often, they're not told they're high performers and that they're appreciated. They don't even know they're high performers. Third, they don't get recognized for their efforts. And a lot of times it's because we're focusing on our underperformers. Here's another thing to think about. They don't get nearly as much of your time and your attention. Why? Because they're doing a good job. They're doing what they're supposed to. So oddly enough, the high performer flies under the radar so very often. The other issue, they're not developed further. We just don't invest the time to develop that person further. We think, hey, they're doing a great job where they are right now, and they're right where I need them to be. Well, I can assure you that top performer does not want to remain stagnant. Another issue, they don't have the opportunity to help your low performers. Yes, you heard me right. The previous 2 episodes, we talked about managing unsatisfactory performance. One of the ways that you can do that is by having your high performers mentor and coach your low performers. Besides strengthening the overall team, what it also allows you to do is provide that high performer a developmental opportunity, and that is coaching and mentoring. But here's the bottom line. You know who likes your high performers the most? Hold on just a second. Other companies. Of course they do. Other companies love to steal your high performers away. And the way that they do that is by the high performer not being recognized in their current company, not being developed further, not receiving opportunities to grow and to progress in their skills, and simply not getting your time and attention. So don't let that happen. Here's some ways to keep sight of your high performers. One, define what high performance is and publicize it. Now keep in mind, we're talking here about behaviors, work style, decision-making style, and just general core values and how they're aligned with the company's core values. Also talk about it. Talk about what high performance looks like. Reference it, highlight it in your emails, in meetings, in discussions and conversations. You're getting the word out as to what high performance truly looks like. So you're creating that image, that model for your team. Next, know your high performers. And when I say know, what I mean to say is know about them. Know what motivates them. Find out why do they stay with the company. Find out too, what ideas do they have about your work group, your team, the organization? Because if they are a high performer, they're going to have input and ideas on this. They may well just be waiting for you to ask. Why not take advantage of that knowledge? Here's another key piece. And again, this is how you keep your high performers engaged. Use their knowledge in the hiring process. Have your high performers involved in your interviews. Get their advice, guidance, and ideas on what makes a person successful in that role. And use that knowledge and input and their resources to help you make better hiring decisions. Because ultimately, you're evaluating potential new hires against that high performance. And the final point, use your knowledge about what high performance looks like to foster more high performers. Find out why high performers are the way that they are. And again, this starts with the first point, the behaviors, the work style, the decision-making style, and the core values. You can use those to share that information with your team so you can begin to replicate what a high performer looks like. It also helps you determine what type of performance levels that you're looking for because you've set the measure for what high performance looks like. One final point about high performers before we wrap up this segment. Being good at your job often attracts more work. How many of us have lived that life? What they call it, though, is performance punishment. And keep in mind, leaders, this is a very dangerous game to play. Overworking your high performers to avoid growing your underperformers, that's simply a fast track to disaster. What it does is it breeds resentment. Your good people, your high performers, you know what they do? They leave. And then your poor performers, they're not going to learn because they don't have the high performer there to mimic that behavior, for you to reference that behavior. Because a lot of times what we learn about poor performers is they're much more likely to stay with your organization, especially during tough times, than high performers, because high performers have options. And finally, just be very careful of the behaviors and standards that you reward, and for that matter, punish. If you've got a high performer, should they be picking up the slack of low performers, or should you be looking for ways to reward your high performers so that you're also raising the performance level of your low performers? And we talked about a couple of ways to do that today. Well, folks, that wraps up segment 1 of today's episode, where we explore the importance of nurturing your top performers. Stay tuned, because when we return from the break, we'll have our special guest, a corporate recruiter, joining us to share invaluable insights on acing the interview process. But for now, take a moment to reflect on what we've discussed so far, and we'll be right back after this short break.
Greetings, I'm Kyle Smith, and I'm here to offer you a speaking experience that goes beyond the ordinary. With a rich background in leadership, HR, and personal development, I bring a unique blend of expertise and passion to every presentation. Whether it's Leadership Unleashed, well-being at work, or career mastery, I delve into topics that empower individuals and organizations to reach their fullest potential. What sets me apart? Proven expertise, an engaging delivery style, and actionable insights that drive positive change. But here's the kicker: I don't just offer a one size fits all approach. I customize my content to meet the specific needs and goals of your event. So let's elevate your event together. Contact me now to reserve your date and unlock the full potential of your audience and organization. Don't miss out on the opportunity to inspire greatness. Visit hrkyle.com today.
Welcome back, everyone, to the HR Kyle podcast. I hope you enjoyed that brief break. Now let's jump into what I always say is my favorite segment of the show, segment two. Keeping in mind that we've covered the importance of nurturing top performers in segment one, and now we're shifting gears to focus on another critical aspect of career development, and that's acing the interview process. Whether you're a seasoned professional or just starting your career journey, interviews can be nerve wracking. But fear not. In this segment, we're joined by a special guest, John, who's a corporate recruiter with years of experience in the field. He'll be sharing invaluable advice, tips, and strategies to help you navigate the interview process with confidence and shine bright to land that dream job. John, welcome to the HR Kyle podcast.
Hi, Kyle. It's a pleasure to be here.
Wonderful. We love having you. Well, John, we always start off easy and then the questions get more difficult. So I'm just giving you a heads up on that. But the easy question is tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure, Kyle. I'll keep it brief. I am a corporate recruiter with a company called MP Biomedicals, and Biomedicals is a life sciences company located in suburban Cleveland, Ohio. I'm not sure how your audience or this, but we're located in suburban Cleveland, Ohio. And I've been a corporate recruiter with them for about 2.5 years. And prior to that, my primary vertical was manufacturing in terms of recruitment. And also a little bit, I've also done a little bit of recruiting attorneys as well. So, generally speaking, it's been manufacturing, and especially within the life sciences these last few years.
Well, John, thank you for that background on you and your experience. And I think it lends itself well to the discussion we'll have tonight. So, with that in mind, in your work, you're interacting with job candidates on a daily basis. That's the nature of a corporate recruiter. What are some of the things that you're seeing candidates do well in their interactions with you? And what are some things they're struggling with?
Some of the things that I'm seeing, the most polished people seem to be the most prepared people. They're looking up the company, they're understanding the job description. When looking at the job description, they're formulating in their own mind how that job description fits their background. And once the phone conversation comes along, once the interview comes along, they're able to articulate what it is about the job description that fits their background. Once again, part of this goes back to communications too. The best people that I seem to be finding are polished communicators. And both, when I say that, I mean it both verbally and written communications. So those are a couple of things that stand out to me. They're well prepared. They understand the position, the opportunity, and they understand how the opportunity fits with their background.
John, that's some wonderful advice. And again, listeners, I hope you're taking all this in. This is John joining us today, and John does this for a living. He talks to a number of candidates in a given day, week, and month. So these are some of the things that he's encountering. Now, John, as a recruiter, you're the first person to see the candidate's resume in your organization. Tell our audience how long you're reviewing their resume and what things are you looking for during that review.
Kyle, to be honest with you, it kind of depends on the position that I'm working on. Some of the positions I work on are very technical. They require a PhD in very specific scientific backgrounds. So with those, I really have to scan the resumes to get an understanding because they are there's really just a lot more to those positions and to the people's background for those that are kind of applying for those or that I'm trying to source for those positions. So those take a little bit longer. Generally speaking, you know, if you look this up online, you hear different things or you see different things. You'll see that compute or recruiters spend 7 seconds looking at your resume and then they're on to the next one. I that seems fast to me, but it is a fast process because we're trying to fill these positions as fast as we can, and you know it's a competition with other recruiters for a finite amount of talent. And right now it's a tight labor market, so it's even more so. But I would say probably 20 seconds, and I'm scanning the resume. I'm looking at some of the things that I'm looking at are the formatting. Is it easy to read? Is it formatted in a way that you can look at it and understand the information quickly? The other thing I'm looking at are, does the person's background fit the actual position? And so I'm looking at job titles and I'm looking at just their other positions that they've had, and then I'm looking at their length of tenure at their different positions. Although I'm sure a lot of people have may or may not have heard the term job hopper, but as a recruiter, you kind of want to stay away from job hoppers. You're hoping that somebody will join your organization and think it's a great organization and stay with it for years to come. You don't necessarily want to have to be filling that position right away. So those are some of the things that I'm looking at as I'm scanning resumes and just kind of give an understanding of what that is.
John, great summary of your process. And listeners, you heard John state he's not able to spend a lot of time on the resume, for one, because of just the urgency to get positions filled. So that's why we talk on here all the time about making that investment in creating a quality, easy to read resume. And the other thing there that John hit on that I'm so glad he mentioned is being sure that that resume is crafted towards the position you're applying for. Because as John stated, he's familiar with the role from the job description as well as working in the organization and working with the hiring manager. And a lot of his work is doing a comparison between what he sees on the resume and what the position requires. So again, some really strong nuggets there from John as far as his process and when these resumes land on his desk. Now, John, I always advise job candidates that one of their goals is to stick out from the other candidates in a positive way. When you think about the candidates you work with, what are the things that candidates do to make themselves stick out from the quote unquote competition?
Kyle, some of the things that I think of as far as sticking out from the competition from a candidate standpoint are sometimes it's people who are proactive. If somebody contacts me, that's always kind of I note that because that's somebody that's being proactive and maybe an indication that they're motivated. They, you know, they've seen something that they're interested in and they're going to go after that. In this case, it's obviously an opportunity that they like. Another thing too is candidates that show that they're engaged and that they're excited about a given position. Sometimes you don't see that and you want to see that. You're thinking to yourself, well, I'm not sure if this person is really interested in this opportunity or maybe they're not.
John, some solid advice there. And again, that's a topic that I talk with candidates a lot about is finding ways to make themselves stick out. And I'm so glad you mentioned the concept of following up because I advise candidates to do that to, again, stick out from the crowd, allow them the opportunity to talk with you as recruiter and provide possibly additional details. You may have questions, but as you said, you make a note of those people that follow up. And I would have to imagine, too, to really pick up on your second point, you see that follow up as a demonstration of excitement, of interest. Is that fair?
Yeah, I would say that's a great synopsis of what I was thinking with that, Kyle. I appreciate that. You know, some of the other things are just I kind of mentioned this earlier in one of the your other questions, but when a candidate has taken the time to look at the company, to do some research, they've done their homework as far as understanding the competitive landscape, and they understand the competitors that are operating in a given space. Anything like that is also a major indicator that this might be a good candidate. They've taken the time to figure those things out. Sometimes it's indicative of they've got some business savvy. They if they understand the competitive landscape, they understand what other competitors are and what their products and services do, then they probably do have some kind of business sense, which goes far with any most positions out there. So a lot of times things like that too, when a candidate's done their homework and can articulate what the company does, that where they stand in the market, and those kinds of things, that really stands out as well.
Now, solid advice there, John. And just a couple of thoughts on that. One, folks, you can see why John is one of my favorite corporate recruiters. One, just by the guidance and just the many pieces of wisdom here that he is sharing with you tonight. First off, and secondly, I would say you may have interviewed a number of places before you reached John. But for John, that's the first interaction you're having. So I know it can be frustrating at times to think, oh my gosh, I've got to research another company. I've got to learn what they do. I've got to learn the business. But again, remember this: John is not aware of the other 9 conversations you had with other companies. As far as he's concerned, and it's true, this is the first interaction you two have had about the position. So those are the things he's looking at. He's not aware that you're tired or fatigued through interviewing. So one of the things that we talk about in my YouTube channel is resilience. And I have a clip, actually a 2-minute clip, talking about resilience in the interview process for just this reason. John, what are some final words of wisdom that you would provide to job candidates in obtaining the job that they want?
Well, Kyle, I'll backtrack on some of the things that we talked about earlier. If you see or you come across a recruiter or a hiring manager's information, that can be a great way to go straight to the source. You can contact that person, and whenever you do that, make sure you attach your resume as well. They're going to ask you for your resume either way. So the best thing to do is if you reach out to them, say, "Hey, I saw this position. I'm really interested. I think it's be a great match for my background. I would love to hear more about it if you have time or whatever it is." Remember to attach your resume when you do that, so they don't have to ask you for that. It's there, and because they're going to ask you for it anyway. Again, that goes back to being proactive. That's if you're able to find that person. Again, going back to what we were talking about, study up on the company, study up on the opportunity, think about how it fits with your background. And one of the big things that I see a lot of people do is I'll ask them, or why are you interested in the position? And it's a pretty straightforward question. And a lot of times people will go into, well, I think this will really help me get to this position, or whatever the case might be. And sometimes that's not a bad thing. To say you want to develop, and you do want to go to the next step in your career, that's understandable. A big part of what they're asking about is how you fit with that role. So really you want to turn that into how you answer problem that the role is trying to solve.
John, great response there. And the thing that sticks out to me as well, and candidates, please hear this. John has made it clear that he is one of those recruiters, and there's a few out there that want you to be proactive and reach out to him. He will engage with you, he will answer your questions. And the other thing that I really drew from that is something that I talk about a lot when I talk about interviewing is help the hiring manager, the HR person, help that company imagine you in that role. And that's what John is speaking to when he says why are you interested in this role? Why are you interested in the company? How you answer that helps that company, that recruiter, that hiring manager imagine you in that role.
Well said. Yeah, that's exactly right, Kyle.
Well, folks, that concludes segment 2 of today's episode. A big thank you, first of all, to our guest, John, for sharing such valuable insights and guidance on acing the interview process. John, thank you very much.
Thank you, Kyle. It was a pleasure. I really enjoyed it.
Wonderful. We did too. Now, before we wrap up, I also want to extend my gratitude to all our listeners for tuning in. Your support means the world to me. Remember, whether you're nurturing your top performers or preparing for that crucial interview, stay proactive and stay motivated. And until next time, this is HR Kyle saying, stay grounded, stay focused, and stay tuned.
Well, that's a wrap for today's episode of the HR Kyle podcast. We hope you found our discussion valuable and filled with insights that you can apply in your professional journey. Whether you're a business leader aiming to foster a thriving workplace or a job seeker looking to carve out your own path, remember that HR Kyle is the compass that can guide you towards success. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and share it with your network. We're committed to being your trusted source for HR wisdom, and we look forward to having you back with us for our next episode. Remember, in the world of HR and professional growth, there's always room for progress. Be sure to visit our website at hrkyle.com. That's hrkyle.com to learn more about how we can help you meet your business and professional goals. So until next time, this is HR Kyle signing off. Stay motivated, stay informed, and keep reaching for those career goals. Music provided by bensound.com. That's bensound.com.